it's blasphemy. It's unbelievable. I mean, the guy shows up every year in and year out, putting up numbers, leading his team. He can't do it all by himself, right? You know, a lot of those great quarterbacks that I've been with, Tom and Drew, they, don't get me wrong, they won a lot of games, won a lot of Super Bowls, but they had a lot of help around them as well, right? And so us players around them also got to step up. And so when we hear that disrespect, you know, I take that personally, and as his teammates, we should take that personally, because at the end of the day, somebody got to be able to help him get over that hump so we can go win one.
And Cowboys writer Clarence Hill Jr. added this on social media. Cooks continued the conversation with me later and said he's not saying this because Dak is his quarterback. He truly means it. And he offered a warning to the Cowboys and Cowboy fans. Let him go if you want to. And then he walked off. Look who is here in the flesh, our girl. What a treat. Mina Kimes, we're on your coast.
Hello.
So great to see you. Yes. I want to start with you. I realize there's a lot to unpack. I mean, you heard from Jerry.
Yes.
You heard from Brandon Cooks. Are Cooks' comments fair or foul?
Absolutely fair. He's absolutely correct. He is right that Dak receives disproportionate criticism relative to other quarterbacks in his play. He's right that his teammates need to step up in big moments. He's probably talking about himself. He's a self-aware guy, by the way. He was inconsistent last year. And he is especially right, that quote from Clarence Hill at the end there, that Cowboys fans will miss Dak Prescott if he's gone. Because the world in which they let him leave, they don't get a deal done, is a world where the odds of this Cowboys team improving at the quarterback position, both in the short and the immediate term, are tiny. Let's game this out. Dak Prescott walks. You're taking a $40 million cap hit. You got to pay Micah Parsons. You have no money to sign anyone. Not that there'll be anyone as good as Dak Prescott available in free agency. You're looking at a draft that most people think is not nearly as good as last year in terms of quarterbacks, and you're not going to be picking near the top. You're going to be stuck in the same sort of quarterback purgatory that we find Stephen A. Steelers.
Yeah.
And you're going to miss that man greatly, because realistically, you are just not going to improve upon him.
Do you want to go, or you want Dan to go?
Let Dan go. I'll get to Mina first. I'll get to Mina in a minute.
Dan Orlovsky
Let Dan go
with
first.
his new part
Let
and
me see
his
if I'm
new
going to have
tie.
to get at him, too. Let's
Yo,
go.
what up, MK? All right,
Hey.
So, one, hearing Jerry talk to Stephen A., I don't think there's any chance that Dak plays elsewhere now. I honestly thought maybe. It seems like he will be re-signed. Just, I don't know if it's before the season, during, or after, but it doesn't sound like Jerry Jones is going to let Dak Prescott leave. So, yes, quarterbacks are unfairly criticized. Every one of them, though, outside of Patrick Mahomes, and he at times gets it. We just had a segment about Lamar Jackson, who's a two-time MVP. He's got to go beat Patrick. We have constant conversations about Josh Allen, and is he overrated? He's been voted the most overrated quarterback in football. Jalen Hurts, can he replicate 2022, or does he actually stink? This is the reality of playing quarterback in the league. And at times, it certainly is unfair. It certainly is unfair. And a lot of guys outside of Dak Prescott get it. Dak Prescott might be at the focal point often because Cowboys fans, you guys have the biggest fan base in the NFL, okay? So there's more of you guys, and there's more people who hate the Cowboys. So that part of this can be true. The second part of this can be that the play in the regular season is at such a consistently high level that sets the table for the expectations in the playoffs. And those have fallen short. 3 out of the last 4 playoff games. He's thrown 5 interceptions. He's taken 10 sacks. He's got 30 missed throws, not incompletion, missed throws. So there is a legitimate element to, well, a lot of the things that get said about Dak Prescott are because of the play. But it's also because he's a quarterback, and quarterbacks are constantly picked apart in this world that we live in, NFL, other than Patrick Mahomes.
You have something
I
you
just
want
want to address one thing you said.
Go ahead.
You brought up all these other quarterbacks, Dan, of course, saying, oh, all quarterbacks are disrespected, the poor quarterback position. But you mentioned Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, get their fair share of criticism, Lamar Jackson. You know what's different with those quarterbacks and Dak Prescott? Those teams believed in them and got long-term deals done. This isn't even the first time the Cowboys have let this play out. So I would argue on that basis alone, Dak Prescott is being treated differently.
Lamar's took a long time. I mean,
Yeah,
we were talking
it took
about
a long
our
time,
teams going.
no doubt.
And
But
he
they
had
got
an
it done.
MVP. He had an
But they
MVP
got it
in his
done.
belt.
But he also had he had the injuries, and look, I thought that the Ravens should have gotten that done earlier. But ultimately, Dan, they got the long-term deal done. The Cowboys appear to be letting this play out with Dak Prescott. That is unique.
I agree with that.
Oh, my God. Let me get right to this. First of all, Mina, first question I asked Jerry Jones yesterday was about CeeDee Lamb. And knowing what you know, you knew you were going to sign him. Why the hell it takes so long? He said, I have my own timetable. What's the big deal? Is he here when he needs to be here? Before the season began, the answer is yes. That was his answer. That basically was, I'm paraphrasing, but that basically was his answer, okay? And when I talked about Dak Prescott, I happen to know that, they're negotiating as we speak, and they're hoping to get something done. We'll see whether or not it happens, okay? But obviously they're negotiating, and, the issue with Dak Prescott, from what I've heard on the inside, not from Jerry Jones, but from people walking in the building, because I was at the Star, and there was people talking about it yesterday, and they talking about how Dak Prescott and his representatives, they're about that LeBron James, the MO. They want short-term deals. Jerry and Steven want you long-term, and that's usually the issue as opposed to money itself. But in the end, here's what it comes down to.
Interesting. He wants a short-term.
He always does. That's what they say. That's
He
what
should. He has leverage.
That's cool. That's fine, and that's fine. But this is where y'all lose me, okay, Mina? Okay, and I love you. But this is where y'all lose me. Y'all act like the disrespect, and I'll get into Brandon Cooks in just a second, okay? Y'all act like the word disrespect is not appropriate here. If you're saying that Dak Prescott cannot play, that's disrespectful. Right. If you're saying that he doesn't have star caliber talent, then you're acting like you're blind and you haven't seen what transpired September through December. Now, now I do appreciate that Brandon Cooks watches First Take, because when he said blasphemy, we all know we know who he's talking about. We know who he's talking about, okay? He's talking to me, and that's fine. My brother, I would ask you this question. Why the hell is he so great in December with a 21-8 record, but all of a sudden nosedives in January? Dan Orlovsky just talked about the 30 missed throws.
Well, you could argue the competition gets stiffer because you're in the
well, damn it, tough. Because when you go to a when you go to a negotiating table, it ain't about, I'm going to show up when the competition is in my favor. Right. But when it gets tougher, I'm going to shrink beneath it. No, you're saying that you're that dude. Now, is he better than Cooper Rush? Sure. Is he better than Trey Lance? Sure. Is he better than a lot of quarterbacks in this league? Sure. But there's a legitimate argument that there's quite a few quarterbacks that are better than him.
How many?
And in the end, they debated it yesterday. Some people said they questioned whether or not he was top 10. I don't, but I'm going to look at it from this standpoint. You haven't gotten it done. It's 4 years we're talking about it. 4 consecutive years that this man has not shown up in the biggest moments when it counts in the postseason.
Taking a lot of sacks.
Okay? I don't give a damn how many sacks he's taken. The fact is, Dak Prescott, you could look at Dak Prescott and you could say he hasn't stepped up. Now, I walked around this building. I'm having fun on First Take, but ask him. I walked around the Star yesterday. I was hoping to see him. I was hoping to run into him. I wish I would have ran into Brandon Cooks. Matter of fact, I'll come back to talk to Brandon Cooks, I'll talk to the damn entire team in the locker room and say what the hell I'm saying. Nobody's scared.
Sure, they'll be
We're
really
talking
excited
facts
to see
here.
you.
We're talking facts. At the end of the day, you have a quarterback who, based on his regular season numbers, Mina, deserves his contract today.
Okay.
But you're doing it with the knowledge, damn,
Mina?
he probably ain't going to do it in January.
I think that what you just hit on, though, is how I'm defining disrespect, because to say that Dak Prescott has to be better in the playoffs, that is not disrespectful. That is true. By the way, it's true of Lamar Jackson, who I think is one of the best 3 quarterbacks in the NFL.
Right.
Jalen Hurts was terrible in the playoffs last year. Obviously, had a Super Bowl run before then. Yeah, but I'm just saying, there also have been games where Dak Prescott has played well in the playoffs. It's not like it's all been awful.
First one against Green Bay, and then against Tampa.
One of the best playoff performances I've ever seen.
We were there.
But anyways, my point is, what I'm saying is disrespectful is not that. That's just obvious. What's disrespectful is half this fan base saying, let's eat the $40 million and move on from him. We're going to get better.
Well,
what I am saying, a lot of fans there, a lot of Cowboys fans, I hear them.
Because they're frustrated, Mina, they're hurt. I mean, my God, how much disappointment how much disappointment and heartbreak can you give them? I mean, listen, I'm telling you right now, rolling around the street, I swear to you I'm not exaggerating, roaming around the streets in Dallas. You talk about everything else. We gonna do it. We gonna do it. You talk about Dak Prescott, they go like this.
That's a problem. I'm saying that's a problem.
I hope.
Why
Come
did
on,
Mina,
Dak.
Mina,
Come
and Dan,
on.
hold on. Mina and Dan, really quick. Stephen A is always hard on him, and you brought up a great point about Lamar Jackson,
think I'm
Jalen
hard
Hurts,
on
other
him.
guys that have been struggled in the playoffs. Why do you think there's been such a significant drop-off of his play in the playoffs versus the regular season, to Stephen A's point? Do you think he's truly, scared, the moment's too big, too much pressure? Or is it on the team, the coaching?
Well,
What's happening?
Dan, you want to go first on this? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, thinking about the last playoff game, which I watched recently, it was a team-wide failure. Dak was bad. CD was bad. The play calling was bad.
Yeah.
The defense was bad. And now the thing is, I understand anyone says, well, the quarterback has to be an elevator and deserves disproportionate responsibility. He gets most of the credit when they win, that kind of thing. Totally fair. But if you're asking me why were they so bad in the playoffs, it was team-wide. It was
Total team
organizational, in my opinion, Dan.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, Green Bay. In the San Francisco game, the past, 21 and 22, those were, he just didn't play well. I go to I think the Rams playoff game where they were 0 for on third down. So here's where I get frustrated, because I can appreciate Brandon Cooks. I'm a massive fan of the human being that he is, and he's having his guys back.
So am I.
But there's got to be a reality to some of these conversations. If we were saying, because Dak is in the same conversation a little bit as Lamar when it comes to don't really care, and you've earned your right. Don't really care what you do in the regular season. That is a small group. You've earned that right. But in the playoffs, like MK, I'll put you on the spot now because I love to, and Stephen A, you can answer as well. One game in the playoffs, who you want, Dak or Josh Allen?
Josh
Allen.
Dak or Joe Burrow?
Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
Dak or Patrick? I'll get past that one. Dak or Matthew Stafford?
Stafford.
Dak or C.J. Stroud?
Stroud.
Are we at 5
Stop
right now?
it, Mina.
We're at
He
7.
played one game. I'll go Stroud.
Right now we'd go Stroud, but that's
1, 2,
a tough
3,
one,
4,
Dan.
5,
Yeah,
6.
now we're getting to the point where it gets a little bit.
Come on, that gets dicey. We got to see him
Can I
play
say this?
sophomore campaign as well.
Let me say this to
so,
Mina.
well, hold on one sec, Stephen, real quick, sorry. So we had 5? You're saying that there's 5 quarterbacks?
I'm at 6. You want Dak or Lamar?
I'll go Lamar.
You want Dak or Aaron Rodgers?
Aaron Rodgers.
So
I have
that's
to see
the
Aaron
thing,
Rodgers.
MK.
I have to see 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers coming off of the Achilles before I'm going to say I want him over Dak Prescott.
Lord.
I
Dak or
do.
Jordan Love?
And are you
Didn't
really
Dak
sure
Prescott
about
come
it?
back from an injury?
Is Lamar
Did you do
Jackson
that?
really that easy of an answer?
Oh, my Lord.
You want Dak or Jordan Love?
This is the Love Stroud Dak
It's
is
getting
kind of the same
it's getting a
tier
little
for
dicey
me.
now with
Yeah,
these last
I'll
But
probably.
so we're at 10 names. Didn't even
By the
say
way,
like a Justin
Jordan
Herbert.
Love plays in a significantly better offense, which was another big takeaway from that playoff game.
First of all,
Totally.
Brandon Cooks. I'm not questioning your intelligence in any way, but you need to if you're looking for the definition of blasphemy, it's Mina Khan's right now just acting like Dak Prescott and saying conversations with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that's ridiculous. That is blasphemy right there. I mean, that's unbelievable, okay? But I'm going to say this to y'all. Dak Prescott, 1-3 career home playoff record, tied for the worst in NFL history. Dak Prescott, 4-8 record in January, combining both regular season and postseason, 4th worst in NFL history. I'm looking at it and I'm saying to y'all this. And Brandon Cooks, especially you, my brother, because we all know it's an emotional diatribe you went on. That's why you walked off the way that you did. It's emotional because, see, this is what Dak Prescott does. This is what Dak Prescott does. He's such a nice guy.
Okay.
He's such class.
No.
No. This is what he does.
More than that. That's why.
I have one question for you, but
Go ahead. But let me finish my point.
okay, yeah.
Dak Prescott, the reason I can bring that up, if I were denying how great he is during the regular season, y'all would have me. Just wait, watch. While the Dallas Cowboys defense is struggling early last year, what does he do? He compounds it by throwing an interception. He compounds it even more by throwing a pick six. I told you, I was at the fight. This is the fight. We're talking about Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. The Dallas Cowboys descended upon Vegas. They were everywhere there. They were everywhere, right? And everybody was hyped about the upcoming season last year. They were hyped. They were ready to go no matter what you talked about until you brought up Dak Prescott.
Well, maybe
and
that's
at
what I'm
that
saying.
moment,
They had a few
and at that
cocktails
moment,
there
and
at
at
the
that
fight.
moment, they were like this. Come on, man. Come on, man. Just have faith. They believe in everything else. When it comes to him, they like gumptioning up the faith and the confidence because they don't have it naturally. Brandon Cooks can talk all that nonsense all he wants to, but the evidence has been there for Dak Prescott over the last 4 years, period.
I just have one last question.
Yes.
Since we're doing small sample size theater and we're placing so much importance on these Dak Prescott playoff performances of late.
Okay.
How did Aaron Rodgers do last time we saw him in the playoffs?
He was not impressive.
How did that look?
He was not impressive. He was not impressive.
So what makes you think 40 years old, coming off the Achilles, he's absolutely going to outplay Dak Prescott in the playoffs?
Can I answer that question?
It's a great point.
I might be wrong, but at least I can lean on a sample size spanning more than a decade of excellence.
Because he's old.
And four league MVPs.
I'm joking.
Yeah,
He's
but he
my
hasn't
Lord.
always been great in the playoffs, even prior to that.
Come on now. I mean, you can't mention Dak Prescott in the same breath. And by the way, last point, Dak Prescott, first 4 years, a Pro Bowl appearance, playoff win, making $4.9 million. Made $157.4 million over the last 4 years, one playoff victory. Another Pro Bowl appearance or two. I mean, come on now. I mean, he got his money, but they don't have the results. Jerry gonna pay him. But let's not act like Jerry doesn't have cause to pause and have a little bit of trepidation as to, damn, I really, really, really want something in January too. I know what you can do for me up until Christmas, but once you get all your presents and everything, what happens to you then? I don't blame Jerry Jones for having trepidation. You gotta pay him. You gotta pay him. I understand that. But the trepidation is justified. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I agree, because this is the conversation. We just rattled 8, 9, 10 names off. So, again, I think Jerry's going to pay him, hearing him talk to Stephen A. Me personally, I don't know where you stand, Stephen A. Certainly don't know where you stand, MK. When people say, yeah, but who else? I always get hesitant with that when it comes to that position and you're paying that much money. I don't think that is like a practical way to go about that thought process. Certainly at some other positions, but when you go, we're going to pay this person at that position that much money because one of our selling points or main reasons is, well, yeah, but what would we do if not? I always think that's very dangerous in that league.
I've heard you advocate for so many other teams paying quarterbacks with question marks around their salary. It feels like Dak Prescott is held to a different standard over the last few years. I don't know if Tua Tagovailoa.
Oh, my Lord.
Because of the way that he operates that offense. How
are those playoff games look?
How's Tua done on the road?
I pointed out about Tua.
I'm talking specifically about Orlovsky.
100% I said Tua's going to have to play better in bigger games, cold weather games. I'm aware of that.
And you said pay that man.